I'll show it in the perspective view. So let's say you want to create a cylinder here, as I told you. So here you can say this is the canvas. This is called canvas, and this is the place where you can get the parameters here. All these things are like components, and these are your tabs. So in the params tabs, you can have all these components, point and all these things. And in math tab, you have different components, and vector tabs you have different components. In curve tab, you have different components. So let us start. I'll just do a cylinder here. So if you want to go for a cylinder, so you can go for a surface, and you're going to go for a primitive. Then you can go for a box, and there is a cylinder here. So once you click that cylinder and place it here on the canvas, this is your component. In this we have 5 sections here. So you can see these are the inputs. So these are the places at which you should be entering your input values, because for a cylinder you'll be having a radius and a height h or length L, and you have to select the base, either be it a XY axis or YZ axis or ZX axis, or on any vector plane that you want to have the base. You can create your own base. So here it's all, if you just put your cursor here, you can see the base is selected as X and Y plane, right? So if you go and see, already there are some default values that are set in these inputs. So you can see the radius is set to 0.5 and length is set to 1. And having given this 3 inputs here, you'll be generating a cylinder at the output, and this is how output is. So if you want to see the output, you can see and place. This is a panel through which you can see what is the output. So it says it's an untrimmed surface. OK, so now you want to change, and you can see here you can't do anything with this thing. You can't even save this. If you go and fight and save, you can't even save this, because this is a simple representation of what you're trying to do in the Grasshopper plugin tab. So it doesn't mean that it has created a model here. If you want to create a model here, what you have to do is that you can go and you can right click on this, and then you can bake it. It's kind of like it's the red color one is a batter, and you can try to bake it. OK, so once you bake it, you can pull aside, and this is the component. I'll shade it, and this is the cylinder that you can see. And this is the CAD model that has been created, and this you can save it in different formats of your CAD, like neutral formats in IGS, STL, and whatever the formats that you want to like. You can save this model, and then you can use it in the further sections. But this you can't do anything. And one more advantage of this is you can create n number of cylinders by giving a range to this radius and range to this length also. So how do you get this range? There is this thing called slider. So if you go and you can see there is a number slider. Click here and place it, and you can set the values to the number slider. What is the minimum value for the slider, and what is the maximum value slider? Or if you can put the range also. How many increments you have to reach from minimum to maximum. So let's say I'll start at 1, and I can end at 50. Let us assume, and every dimension here is set in mm. I have all the settings done here. Everything what I'm representing is in millimeters. OK, so you can even edit this by left clicking it. So let's say this is radius. So and this is your slider, and it is having ranging from 1 to 50, as I told you. So let's have some random value and plug it here in the radius. Now see, this is the radius. So this is the radius. It has increased its radius, and same thing I can copy and paste here, and I can write this as length. And let me increase the length till some point, and then I can plug in this value. Fine. So this is the cylinder. Now see, the baked one is not changing its values, but the red color one which is there here, that is cylinder, and it can be changed. And now what can you do? You can create a number of cylinders with different radius and different lengths by changing this sliders. So you can see like this, you can reduce and increase the radiuses, and you can reduce and increase the length also here. By that you can get different cylinders. Is it OK?
One doubt.
Yes.
After making the the green thing. So how did we make the?
Yeah, how did I make that? So as I told you, these are the inputs, right? The left hand side is the input and the right hand side is the output, right? So you go to the output and right click it, then you can see a command called bake. Okay. So you can, once you click the bake, and then you can, okay, so this has baked. So it has been baked. You can see this is the baked one. So this is the CAD model that you have generated, and I can, change it. I can bake it again, and I can pull this ahead like this. I can create a number of cylinders. Okay, see there is a small cylinder here, and there is another cylinder here with different radius and height. There is another cylinder with different radius and height, and there is a small cylinder with different radius and height. So this is how we can generate so many number of models with least amount of work. Got the point?
So how did we just plainly drag the thing, or is there any command to move it?
This one, I am just dragging it. I'm just dragging it with my mouse here.
Okay, and it goes along the same plane, right?
Yeah, it's you can even change the plane. See, and I mean you can even change the plane like how could I do that? There is one thing called Gumball. I think I have to. Let me. I think it's not coming up. I can do that by enhancing some property where you can have a point up and down, rotation, angles all are available here. You can do whatever you want. Even you can rotate it also. Okay, in this toggle. By toggling it, I think I have to search for the command 1 minute.
Also the form surface, it is a surface, right? So what if we need a solid?
So you have to cap it. So I think you might have done in your CAD course, right? Like for solid, you have to have some properties satisfied, right? Like your faces have to be closed and your normal should be pointing outside the face. All these things are there, right?
Yes.
So you can cap it and you can make sure that then that is a solid. It has, there should not be any opening. So if you want to make that, then you can use this cap command. Cap holes. Okay. Then you can send it to this, and then you can see this. It is capped now. Can you see this?
Yes.
So big.
So
now,
both sides will be capped, or this one?
Well, like it you have to mention it like on which side you're trying to cap. Okay. So this is how you can make a solid also. And I mean already there are some, but don't expect anything to be having inside the cylinder. It is a solid. You can calculate the volume and you can do anything. But let's say if you want to do some, this constructive solid geometry, it means like CSGs. You can do that only when each solid, I mean, these two solids have to intersect each other. And let's say if one solid is completely inside another solid, then you will not be able to do anything, because for this software, as it is surface based modeling, there's nothing inside this, right? So if you have some kind of intersection like this, then you will be able to perform some kind of Boolean operations. But let's say if one complete solid is hidden inside another solid, then you won't be able to do any operations in this software, not in all the CAD packages. Okay.
Can we vary the thickness of the
cylinder?
Yeah.
Then how you have to do is that you can offset the cylinder, offset the curve. Sorry, of the surface. And you can give some distance, set a number, some 1. So you can you see this thickness here on the top?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Like this, you can offset the cylinder, and then you can cap this part. Then it would be a cylinder with some thickness. Okay.
Okay.
So this is how you have to do that. So let me go with the presentation.
One small doubt. So for activating the command, just we just have to type, right?
Yeah, I mean you can search here. You can search here, or else you can double click on this canvas then you can type the search word. Based on that, let's say I want to build a cube, let's say. So then you have cube root is there, cube is there. If let's say these are numerical operations, you have cone like this, you have different options available. You can select if it is there, or else you have to search in this commands. Okay.
Okay, so we have to be familiar with all these commands.
Right? As you keep on working with this, then you'll get the familiarization. Then obviously it will be easy for you to carry on with the more you work, the more you get to this thing. So you can easily type the commands. Okay. Okay. Let me move forward. So now that you are familiar with this, canvas things, like this is your cylinder, the radius and length and all. And then this is the thing that is created in through Rhino, this grasshopper, and this is the Rhino component after baking. So this is your skeleton kind of thing, and then you have converted into flesh. That's what it is. So there are two objects here. One more thing is that, okay, fine. This is how you have created a cylinder by grasshopper, and you have baked it and you have put into the rhinoceros. Now let us say, remove all this. Let us remove all these things. Let's say there is a circle here that you have created. Fine. Now you want to take this cylinder into grasshopper. So like this, you have another thing, another object called circle here, and it won't create circle, but it has capability of calling this circle which is there in rhinoceros to grasshopper. So what you do, right click on this, set one circle, then you can draw your own circle or set the circle which is already there, and that's it. So this is the circle. So this is circle. Now already which is available here has been called into this grasshopper. The other one was the other way around, like you're creating on this and you're projecting here. And this is like the geometry which is already available, and you want to do some other operations on that, and you're calling it into the grasshopper. So that is the difference between these two objects. So let me show here and here. So these are the two difference. So these are like referenced components, and these are like components which are made in grasshopper. Okay. And basic structure is like this, as I already told you. Let's say this is circle, and you have this input tabs where you are plugging in your inputs for the geometry to be created, and it shows what is what. Here it says the plane on which you are trying to create the circle, and here it is the radius. And it says the body, this is your circle, and outputs, it has created one circle, and then this is your output tab. Then you can read whatever is there through some kind of a small, notepad kind of thing. And as I told you, in parameter tabs, you only have these three components. Like you don't have, see, you have only three components: input, circle, output. That's it. So these are the this is the basic structure of a component in Grasshopper. And as we move on, we can see here, like these are the colors through which you can see, the Grasshopper will be. Let's say you're putting some kind of, object onto that. If it is yellow in color like this, then it says that you haven't given any input or inputs to this part, so that there is nothing output here. So it says that it needs some input without any data. And if you have completely given the data, then it shows in a green color. OK, and if it is in this color, it means that you are ready with the default data. Let's say you're entering some wrong data into this, then it will show a error here. Like this, these are the different colors that will be shown when you're working onto the Grasshopper canvas, and these are the colors of components. OK. Let me open up this. OK, fine. This is software. Yeah. So let me go through this each and every tab on a fly like this. So these are the parameters. So this is a single point in the sense like the point that you want to call from this. Let's say you have you want to set a point here. This is the point, and this point is called upon here. And as this toggling is coming now, you can see you can move up, you can move that side, you can move this side like this. And these are circles and all these things you can see. These are the parameters tab. And in math tab, we have different operators. Like you have if you want to multiply, addition, you have some gates, all these things, all the operations are here in this. And these are like if you're working on lists, then these are the things that you will be trying to use. And this is simply and one more thing is that, let's say you don't have a component to create circle. Already we have that. We have that component here in curves. We have primitives. We have a circle. So this is a circle. You can see the circle here. Okay. So this is circle. Let's say you don't have this component, which is not already available. Then what you can do, you can make your own component by using these 3 programming scripts. Like you can use Python script, you can use C# script, or you can use VB script. So these 2 are little difficult for beginners. So Python will be very easy to script. So what you do, you put the Python script here, and when you double click this, you get another editor like this, Python script editor. And these are kind of API kind of stuff where you can create your own components. Like you can call the libraries of Rhino script, and then you can type something here and make sure that you can say these are the inputs. Even you can increase the inputs. You want to have different number of inputs, and if you want to have different number of outputs, you can keep on increasing here. When you zoom this Python script, you'll be having this positive or negative symbols here. Positive means like you can increase your input parameters, and you can decrease your output parameters like this. So based on the number of input variables and output target variables, you can be able to create any kind of script. That script can be used along with the along with the components which are already available in the Grasshopper. Is it okay? I'll show you example on the scripting also. Anyways. So let's do some hands-on session. If it is the offline class, you should have done this thing with using your laptops. But anyways, I'll do and show it here how it is done. So the example 1 is divide 2 curves and join the points with line segments. So you have 2 lines, 2 curves here, and then you want to divide these curves with some number of points, and then you have to join with them. That's it. So let me do that. So I'll do it in top only. So this is your curve. So can you see this? This is nerves basis. What are these white points? Can anyone say this white point? What are these white points? Anyone?
Control points.
Yes, those are control points, right? So those are control points. If you're planning to change the control points, obviously this curve is getting changed. Yes. So these are 2 different curves. And now what I have to do, I have to call these 2 curves into this Grasshopper canvas. So set curve and select this, and I'll take another curve command. Select this, set one curve. So this is this curve and this is this curve. So I can, if you want, I can write curve 1 and this is curve 2. And now I want to divide this curve into some number of segments. So I can search for the divide command here, or else, as you know, you can type this divide. So we can see this available option here, that is divide curve. So now here we have three inputs that this divide curve component is asking. One is like the curve that you want to put and how many points, and kinks are nothing but like some kind of ups and downs are there. So this is not much of use now. So let's concentrate on these two, curve and count. So let me input this curve here, and the count is already having some default value, that is your 10. So I can parameterize that by using some slider. And one more shortcut for slider is double click here and write the range of the slider that you want. So let's say I want to start at 1 and I can write less than, and I want to increment that slider with an 1. So the increment is 1. And then I want to end that at some value 50, let's say. So if you type this command, it will select a slider which is starting from 1 and ending at 50 with an increment of 1. OK, so let's say I'll put here. So you can see the curve is divided into 11 pieces. In the similar way, I can I can copy these two and paste. Control C, Control V, paste. Instead of, see, there is a connection here. If you want to disconnect it, press Control. And remove it. That's it. Just remove it and join this. And both the curves have been divided into 11 halves. And now I want to join this by some lines. So how do I join? So I have to type some line segments. So this is your simple line, and this is your line. Create a line between 2 points. So I'm taking this. So what is the start points? And you see the data structure here is the list. See, this is your simple list and with the coordinates. So it says that the indices 0 says you have point at -20, 7, 0 and all these things. And if you want to see what are the points here, you can just, this is nothing but a simple panel. You can see whatever is there in your outputs. So this is another set of points that are created onto the curve 2. OK. And I want start point, and I'm putting the end points, and you can see the divisions have been joined with these lines. And let's say I want to increase the number of points here. So it is connected to the last point here, and here also I can increase this like this. So in a way you can interactively see how many how many points you want, segments you want to divide and all. So this is the example number 1. OK, any doubt on this? Hello?
No.
Okay,
No,
fine. OK, let me proceed. So the next example is like we'll be using Grasshopper component as well as a little bit of Python scripting. If I think at least you have some basic programming skill. If not, no problem. It is simple language. I'll just show you, try to understand. If not, you can learn and contact me, or you can contact your friends. So fine. So the example here that I want to show is like you have to create this thing, all these 3 things like this. You have some different different spacing between each sphere, and I have to create a control where I can increase and decrease my radius. I have to create a control where I can create different number of spheres in x and y, I mean directions, like number of x and number of y has to change. And also I want to increase and decrease the space between each sphere. I mean, I want to parameterize the space between each sphere. So if I want to have these 3 controls, so how do I do this in the what do you say, Grasshopper? So let me start doing that. 1 minute. What happened? Okay, sorry. So let me clear this. So let me create some points because I want to create some point because, okay, let me put sphere. Let's see what it is asking. What is the input it is asking? So it is asking a base and a radius. Okay. Let me keep this aside. So let me create some points. The points will come as series. Okay, this is your series. So this like is creating some values. Here you can see here. There's a start point and there is a step here and it is a count. How many points? We are creating 10 points from 0 to 10 and these are the values 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so let me create some points for the center of the sphere. So how do I create that? I go to this vector tab. I can construct a point. So this is how you construct a point. Vector tab and you can construct a point here. So this is your XYZ coordinates. Okay, and you can enter this into this and it can say that okay, center is 0, 0, 0 and the radius of sphere is 1. Now I want to replicate this by creating some series of points in x-axis. Okay, so let me create some 1 minute. Move command. So these points have to be moved in x and y directions, right? So let me put move and this is your point and so I want to move this point, right? So I'm moving this point and this is the motion that you want to trying to achieve. So if you want to trying to achieve the motion, obviously you have to tell in which direction it is trying to move. So I want to move it in x direction, x axis. So double click, then you can write some unit x. So this is the vector in which your point is trying to move. Okay, so I'm writing unit x direction. So your point is moving in. So you can see there is another point created here. Okay, so the second point is created. Thus this is the factor. So it has moved with a value of 1. So I want to increase and decrease this factor because this factor will give this spacing between each sphere. Okay, so let me give some factor here. So obviously you can see there are 10 points that are created with these values 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So now this component in this, which is in green color here, will give you the number of points in x-axis. Okay. Similarly, if you want to replicate this thing in y direction, what you do is that you create the same series and unit y will give you the direction in y direction and you have to move this geometry and motion in this direction. 1 minute. I think there is some small entry here that I have to do. Yeah, graphed. Okay, so there are some different data structures here. It's like you can flatten. This is playing with list only. If you have flattening, you have different data structure. Okay, let me show that. So this is your data structure. It looks like if you are crafting it. So it is each single list, a list which is having a single point, another list with some point, another with some point. If you are simply flattening it, it is a single list here. So that's the reason why it's unable to create here. So you have to graft it, then it is creating all the points in x and y direction. Now that you have points in x and y direction, then you can put sphere at each of the point. So geometry, 1 minute. And radius is this. So you can see all the spheres have been created, but let me reduce the size of the radius. Uh, 0.1. Okay, let me cancel it. 0.1 less than 0.1. Yeah, so this is how you can see. So now we have created the different number of spheres in x and y direction. And now I want to give the spacing. The spacing is given by this step, right? Your start point is this, your count is this, and you can give the step. So if I want to give the step, let us say 2 to this, already there is a 1. So you can see it is taking so the step has increased in x direction, and you can give this to this, and the step will be increasing in y direction. Okay, so this is how you create the different number of spheres having control on 3 parameters. One is, okay, this is your control. So let me put this aside. So let us write this. This is spacing between each sphere, and this is your radius, and this count will be your x direction count, and this will be your y direction count. So let me put that also. 1 less than, at least we'll start with some 2, 5. So these are 5, and let me put this some 7. In y direction you have 7. Okay, so these are the parameters: radius, spacing, and number of counts. This is your x count, and this is your y count. So by playing with this, now these are your parameterized. All your design has been parameterized. You can change your radius. See, it is all changing your radius, and you can increase and decreasing the space between each of the sphere. Then you can increase the count in x direction, and you can increase and decrease the count in y direction also. Okay, any doubt in this?
Yeah.
Huh?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, sure. I'm hearing.
Yeah. In the spacing and radius you have given in the form of numbers, right?
Yes.
Instead, if I can write the spacing in terms of radius, say radius divided by 2 or something.
Sure, you can do that. You can do that. Let's say you have some. Okay, you want to do that. Let's say I have some value. Let's say I'm writing this. You can do that. Sure, you can do that. Let's say this is your radius, and this is value 5, and you want your spacing, right? Okay, let me copy this. And now you want to have spacing depending upon radius, right? So what you want to do, you want, let's say you want to divide it by 2, right? Let's say you want half of it. So you can write divide division. See, you can have a division here. You can enter the value a here, and the b is nothing but you can put the data, that is your a by b, right? 2. So the result is 2.5, you can see here. Okay, so instead of giving this spacing, you can give this 2.5 to this out, step. Is it okay?
Yeah, understood. Thank you.
Yeah, that is how you can do that. Yes. And one more thing, you can't loop it. See, please, let's say you got some output here. You can't go back and give it. Let's say, okay, here I'll tell. Let's say every time, please remember the algorithm runs from left to right. So you can't go and connect this back here. It'll give you error. You can't go and connect that because it is kind of already this result has been calculated from this, and again this result you're trying to give as an input, so it won't work in that way. Please remind, you should be remembering this. Okay, any other doubts? Okay. Okay, so I'm not doing this example. I'll just show. This is a simple. I want to show this because this is a FCC structure. It's a simple crystal structure that I've created in the class. But here, as we have some limited time, so I'm not creating this. I'll just show what is already done. I can show you it's easy, but it's also a little complicated. Where is this? Okay. So you can see it's very by looking at this, you will feel that it's very complicated, but it's very easy. So at the end, you can see this, you can bake it and you can get the FCC structure here. So this is your FCC structure. Okay. So this is how I guess now by this time everybody might you might have already got the idea how this Grasshopper works. Okay. So now let's enter into, okay, so if you want to learn Grasshopper, basically you can go and type, you can go to this link, visit this link, and the 7 or 8 tutorials, 6 I think, 6 tutorials will be given by this David Rutten, who is the developer of Grasshopper. So he himself will give you the tutorial for 10 minutes each. I think there are 6 or 7 tutorials. And if you want little more advanced, not advanced, intermediate, then you can go and there is this website, and no need to buy this. You have some trial version or free time. Then within 30 days, I think you can learn this and you can close it off. So these are the 2 ways you can start your Grasshopper learning. Okay. And now we know that Grasshopper and how it works. And one more thing, I think I skipped that. The Python programming. Let me show that also. Okay. So these are the things. Okay. Okay. So the same thing, the same example was written in Python code. Instead of having, all this components here. So you have so many components here, right? So all these components have been merged into one thing, one place, and that can be written in a Python code. So you can write that using some Python coding. So this is how the code looks like. Okay. So what you do, you should be able to have some idea on coding. So basically you're trying to create some sphere list here. Okay, let me zoom that. Sphere list here, and then you're trying to range it from I and j, which are x and y directions here. And right, and you are creating my point. That is point, like you are creating some points with some spacing and all, spacing as your variable and I as your I and j as your x and y values. And then there is this radius, and this is the command for creating a radius at a point. So you can type rs. Rs is nothing but RhinoScript syntax. Okay, you can call RhinoScript syntax as r, and rs dot you can type if you want to show. I'll show that also. rs dot, obviously it will show what are the methods that are available in this rs class. This is nothing but a class, and that you have some methods, and you can select each of the method, and which is having some kind of inputs that you want to give. You have to give this. Okay. So you have this add sphere and my point and radius. So this is what radius you're putting it, spacing, and number of things are the 3 variables here. And then you're trying to append all these spheres into one list. That is your list that you have created here. And then you're trying to, show it in the output. So this is the output, spheres. You got the output here, spheres. Okay, so this is your sphere. So you have created some untrimmed surfaces, some 15, 16 untrimmed surfaces. So this is how you can create the spheres by using your Python scripting also. Not only the visual programming, visual component based programming, you can do Python programming, or maybe if you are good at programming, you can use C#, or you can use VB also for programming. But Python is very easy. You can try with the Python. So this is how we can create the spheres by using Python script. Any doubt in this?
Yeah, hello.
Yeah.
No, I have a doubt, not in this, but whatever you see in the red, let's say it is in Cartesian space, right?
Yes.
Okay, so now my question is that I want to do some visual programming such that I give some u and v points in the parametric space, and I have to see how the surface is in the Cartesian space on the left side. Can it be done here?
Yeah, you can do that in Grasshopper. Yes, you can do that. I mean, you can mesh it and see it. That's what you're telling, right?
Yeah.
You have this command called meshing. So meshing a surface, and you can see v and u count. You can see here.
Yeah. Okay.
You can do that. You can see.
Thank you.
Okay. Fine. Then, okay, let me proceed. So these two are done. Grasshopper components and Python scripting is done. This is done. Okay, now that we have idea about Grasshopper, and now this Grasshopper can be used for generative designing this concept. So if already some people might have known this, generative design. So what is this generative design? It's nothing but a simple, nature, based evolutionary approach. So this is some kind of a mechanical object here. This is a traditional object here. Okay. Now, so this has been used in some assembly. Let's say you are trying to put this into some assembly, and this component needs to have some amount of strength, and some amount of thermal capability, or maybe some amount of acoustic capability. There are some constraints, let us say. Now, based on that, and one more constraint is that you want to minimize your material. It means like you want to reduce the weight of the component, this component. So generally what people do is that you go for topology optimization. I mean, you take a full object, a simple block you take, and then what you do, you keep your boundary conditions, and then you computationally evaluate in some packages like ANSYS, Abacus, or maybe in COMSOL. All this, there are some computational softwares where you can use this FEM or FE V, that is finite element elements and or finite volumes also you can use. So either of that you can use the finite element techniques, and then you try to evaluate at which point the stress is more or at which point the thermal gradient is more and all. And based on that, you add or remove your material and you run this thing for so many iterations, and then you get to some point and you get your optimized product. OK, but generative design is not a topology optimization process, but yet it is a subset of topology optimization. But here you are just giving the constraints, saying that these are my constraints. That is like I want to have my material reduced, and this is my maximum stress that it can take at so and so point, and like that you have some constraints. Now this generative design will generate some designs, and that designs we won't even guess it. So the computer will generate based on some algorithms, some set of rules and regulations. It'll run behind like some optimization schemes, or maybe it'll use genetic algorithms, or maybe it'll use machine learning or artificial intelligence, and then it'll give some kind of object. See, this kind of object it has generated. It is very complicated. This kind of object we might have not even thought of, right? But the generative design has designed this kind of object, and mostly generative design is used in architecture, construction, and some kind of animations and all, right? So you can see here. So I'll read this. It can start with a design goal and explores the innumerable possible permutations of a solution to find the best option. OK, and of course it uses cloud computing, and nowadays as machine learning and this artificial intelligence has taken its growth, so it's using AI also, and it is trying to generate thousands of designs, and out of that you can option here. I mean, you can filter it out the important ones, and then you can test them, and then you can use it there. So this is how you can this is how the generative design works. So you can see here, this is the chassis of a car. So this is a simple initial guess of the chassis. And once you create this model with some parameters, like what are the parameters I told you, right? Like these are the controllable parameters I showed you, right? In the example of our spheres, we have number of points in X and Y is one of the parameter, and spacing between each sphere is another parameter. Radius of the sphere is another parameter. In a way, you can have some n number of parameters here to control the geometry of this chassis. So what you do, you design this chassis, and then you give different parameters. And how this optimized products are created, that's what I'll show you here. OK, let me give the idea about this. So this is like this. You have an idea, you want to create some object, or you want to create some building, or maybe you want to create some design, something like that. So you have an idea, then you have some algorithms, like let's say you want to build a chair. Obviously you have to say that like it has to have 4 legs and 2 armrests and all these things, right? And then you create some kind of parameters to that. What is the length of the leg that you have to have? It has to range from 2 meters to meters to like maybe 0.5 meter to 2 meters, something like that. And the armrest should have so and so length and all these things. So this is your source code, and then you get some chair, and that chair will be analyzed by the obviously the design judges. OK, whether it is a optimal product or not. Then designer is not satisfied, then either he or she can change the rules of algorithm. Maybe it's not a chair, maybe it's some kind of a seat where where 4 people can sit together, something like that. So you can change your algorithm, and then or else you can change your source code, like the parameter ranges, and then by changing tweaking these 2 things you can get an output, and if the designer is satisfied, then that would be the final object. And I want to show this video. 1 minute. Okay. Can you see this video screen?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So OK. So you can see here, this is some kind of a small, I don't know what is this kind of tower. I think this is a tower here. So this is having 4 different parameters like we have in Grasshopper. It is having tower kink offset, tower height, tower kink height, and base height. So these are the 4 different parameters. And this is your design, space and or this design scale, you can say. Each of the parameters having a different scale here, and all the scales are there. And now you try to, if you click on this generate, then you see this. Just see the video, then I'll explain. So he's trying to control the parameters and saving, and second model has been created. And if you try to generate, it creates a number of products like this automatically. So in fraction of minutes, I think it has created so many models here, and and now what he's trying to do is thing is called optioneering. Now he's trying to reduce and increase his range and seeing, okay, this is the range of height that I require. So this is the range I want this, or this is the range I want I have to have here, like that. He's trying to see. So this is what is called filtering. He's trying to filter it based on his expertise. Yeah, so that is how this generative design will work. Okay, so these are very complicated examples here we can see. So this is the example that we have seen, and this is a chair. So see, this chair is meant for something. Maybe it's for a person, and aesthetically also it's good, and with the minimal material, I think it can withstand a person who is having more than 100 kgs. We don't know. So this is a crazy chair that has been generated by generative design. And of course, you can see, running shoes, right? You have to have different, patterns here, right? So it might be good for your flexibility when you're running, and it will give you a cushioning effect. We don't know. So these are the constraints. It has to reduce its weight. You have to have a light weight on your foot. So this is a different design that has been generated by generative design modeling. And this is the car, chassis. So this also has a very frame structure. These are all the small trusses that are connected, and obviously this also has been generated by generative design modeling. And so what is the difference between the old way of design and the generative design? Fine. So old way is nothing but you have one person and a computer, then you build it and then you remodel it, and again you do. It's a very time taking and tedious process. But the new way is like this. You have a simple one human as it is, and some kind of set of rules which are run by AI algorithms, and you have to have a very good computational power. That computational power comes with your cloud computing, and in combining these three, you have lots and lots of options out of which you can pick whichever that you are interested in. Okay, so this is the old way and new way of creating the designs. And the same thing, difference. So you have a problem and you collect the data, then you have an idea, then you are trying to model it, then you're trying to verify it. If you're not satisfied, then you go and change your idea. Again, you model and again you verify. Once you're satisfied, then you get a solution. Same thing, human plus computer and limited decisions. Generative design, nothing. You have a problem, you have data, but you have identity. Identity is nothing but the initial shape or form of your product. So obviously you have to give some initial condition, like if you're solving some problems, it has to have some initial conditions, right? In the same way, you have to give computer or the machine saying that, okay, this is how it looks like, maybe it is how it has to start. So once you give that, then obviously it will model generatively, and then some possible solutions are found out and you verify them. And if you're satisfied with that, okay. If you're not satisfied, then you have to change your identity and keeping on doing this. And this is how human plus computer, some algorithms of AI and cloud computing will give you thousands of design options. So this is how the generative design works. You inspire, then generate, explore the options, and then fabricate. And in most of the cases, the fabrication is done by 3D printing, that is by additive manufacturing. Or sometimes you can go for a machining process, or you can go for some fabrication process like joining process. But mostly to have the material continuity and all these things, generally nowadays as the additive manufacturing is in its peak stage, so I think they are trying to use additive manufacturing to fabricate all the products that are generatively designed. So the 4 steps are written here. You can see designer or engineer inputs, goals, and constraints, like like material type, weight, strength, cost. So this is where you inspire, and then you generate. You generate them. Like you have generated thousands of designs, and then of course you see like, okay, what are the feasible solutions here, and then you fabricate. That is what you do. These are the 4 steps here, and these are the 4 steps here. So what are the advantages? Obviously, so you can have unique designs which even humans haven't thought of. You can have a very nice design that you can do, and it's not only just one solution that you're trying to optimize. You have a number of options available. In that, you can pick some group of objects, and then you combine them, and again you explore some other solution out of all these generated models. You can keep on doing this till you are getting satisfied. Okay. And so you can see this is the simple shape. This is the initial shape, and then after several changes, you can see that's aesthetically beautiful, and maybe it is trying to optimize whatever the input constraints and find initial conditions that you have given. So there are some disadvantages here. Obviously there is no proper framework, because at what point you have to start, what is the idea, what would be the initial guess, that would be a very difficult task, because if your initial guess is not up to the mark, maybe your generated design is not in a good shape, maybe you're not satisfied with that, so you don't have any proper knowledge on that, and you have to have lots and lots of time for that, because you're trying to generate so many models and testing, so re-executions are done, so much time is taken there, time consumption. And next is like obviously investment. So because let's say if you're trying to test that with some softwares and all, then obviously you have to have good amount of money, time, and all these things will be going. So these are the disadvantages of generative design. And if you want to learn more on generative design, so this is your YouTube playlist link. Let me show that. So this is your playlist here, and you can see 15 to 19 generative design in Grasshopper part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4, and part 5. The person here, I don't know who is he. So he has clearly explained how you design the generative design in Grasshopper, and he has taken some example of building. Okay, which he wants to build a skyscraper. So where he had some 9 portions, and he has to build in a different fashions, and then he'll build it. So these are the 5 parts where you can undergo, and each is half an hour. I think it'll have more. I think 2.5 hours. Then you can spend on this and learn more on this generative design. And there is one more thing. There is a talk, TED talk. I'll show this at the end. And let me show the generative design in Grasshopper. Okay. Okay, yeah, I've already done this. I don't want to do it again. So it's nothing but a simple, okay. it's a simple hexagon, and I'm trying to twist at some point, and the hexagon is having some fillet radius as this thing as your one of the control, and number of segments is another control, and fillet radius is another control, height of the object is another control. And now I want to twist that at some different axis, not exactly at the center. I want to twist that at this axis, this point. If I change this point, you can see the point. Obviously, it is twisting in a different directions, right? So this is what is this, and these are the points, and this is a seed at which different possibilities are occurring here. And this is the twist length. Okay, you can see the twist angle is happening. This is more twist, this is less twist, and all these things. And angle of twist is this, how much angle you're trying to twist. And this is your meshing, as you told. You can see the meshing also. And if you zoom, you can see that. And now there is another component which is available, and that is called bimorph. And this is having some inputs, that is genome. This runs with the help of genetic algorithm. Okay. And you give the geometry. Geometry is nothing but your mesh that you have created, and genome are nothing but the parameters that you want to control. So all the parameters have been plugged into this genome input tab. Okay, all these parameters, like I told, right, the radius, segments, fillet radius, all these things have been input into this genome, and this is your geometry. And once you double click this, you get this kind of new pop-up here. And here it's nothing but it runs on genetic algorithm. Does anyone have any idea about genetic algorithm? Anyone here? Hello?
No, sir.
Okay, fine. You have that. Okay, fine. I think somebody's having here. So it's nothing but let me give a very brief introduction about genetic algorithm. It's nothing but a simple gene process where you have some mutations happening with the chromosomes. Okay, so simply you can say this population size is nothing but it's a subset of solutions. Like, let's say you want to create some solution, then you're trying to generate so many possible solutions, right? And population size will be the subset of that solutions. And crossover is nothing but it's like you want to let's say if it is a biological crossover, let's say if a male is there, if a female is there, there are some chromosomes in male and there are some chromosomes in female. Then you want to have some biological crossover, then hence some reproduction is happening, and the sibling or the offspring that is produced will be having genetics of both the parents, like the chromosomes present in male and chromosomes present in the female. So that is what is crossover, like at what rate you're trying to crossover. More crossover is good and less crossover is less. Okay. And another thing is nothing but mutation. Mutation is nothing but relate. Okay, it is a relation. I can say that like in GA, mutation is related to the exploration of space or search of space, search space. So it's trying to go and see, okay, what is the mutation that is happening and at what probability it is trying to create the object. So I don't want to delve into this. Let's say we already have some population size, and let me set some crossover rate and some mutation rate here. And we have all the genome ready here and geometry ready here. And what is this K means? If you learn the machine learning, or if you're trying to see a machine learning thing, you see this, there are some clustering algorithms, and K means is one of them, where it will group into some K clusters. Let's say you have some data which is unlabeled. Then if you want to cluster them into some K groups, that's what is K means, all clusters. Here in this example, we are trying to cluster it in 12 groups. So let me go and create. So you can, let me create again. See, it is going through all the iterations here. OK, so it has gone through all the iterations with the help of the inputs that you have created into the genome. And these are the, via diagrams kind of thing you have here. These are nothing but all these things are your design options, like all these things, the endpoints. But as you can't show all the objects, all the thousands of objects, it has taken an average and it has showing into the center point. So all these points are, represented at the center. And the second set is like this, third set is like this, and all these things are represented by the center mean. OK, and if you want to see the designs, you can click on the design tab and you can see the design. OK, so it has created. You don't know why it hasn't created here. Maybe there is a value 0, I think. So that's not, it didn't create it. So you can see these are the different generated schemes that are generated by some genetic algorithm, some with some mutation rate and a crossover. Now let's say, OK, I'm happy with this design and I'm happy with this design and I'm happy with this design. So you can say I'm happy with 5th design, 3rd design and 10th design. Then now I can click on this evolve. Now these 3 designs are taken into consideration and then it will create some other designs. See, it has created some other designs. And again, you can explore the design space here. Let's say, OK, I am happy with. OK, why it is not coming? OK. OK, let's say I'm happy with this. Maybe I'm happy with this. Maybe I'm happy with this. Then again, I can try to evolve. Then again, based on the 3 crossovers and mutations, again, it will try to create something else. Then again, it's created. Like this, you can keep on, evolve, go to number of iterations, and then you can see the history. OK, this is how you started with. You created you were interested in these 3 objects. Then you have evolved again. Then you were interested in these 3 objects like this. So I don't know what is this performance and about. OK, so this is how you can, generate different structures based on the structures that already have been generated and also the parameters that you are trying to put here. These are the parameters, right? So these are the parameters. So that's it about the basic understanding about generative design. Let me copy and paste this link in the tab so that I'll show you the video of this.
If you have one of these, in a few seconds, you can.
I don't know where it is. OK, OK, this is how what they have done. Let's see here. OK, so did you get the point, guys? So it's nothing but like they have this, they want to design the chassis of an automobile for F1 racing. So what they have done is that they have put the sensors, some thousands of sensors at each and every corner of the chassis, and then they have run that car for certain kilometers, and then they have recorded the time series state of each sensor, and then all the data has been plugged into the generative and artificial intelligence algorithms, and then different type of chassis has been created. So that was created in a project called Dreamcatcher. So I think you can watch this video. I will send you the slides, or maybe you can watch these videos. So that's it. So if you want to know about some other softwares which will generate, which will do the generative design, is Dynamo Studio and Project Refinery. That is under Autodesk, and then there is another software called Revit, and there are so many other softwares. And even Grasshopper also is a very good software where you can start and design different models and start doing generative design. And okay, that's it. Thank you. And again, my name is Naveen Kumar. I sit in Mechanical Lab in IISc Bangalore. And these are my mobile number and email IDs. Thank you. Any other doubts you can ask me. Hello.
Thank you, Naveen.
Thank you,
Yeah.
sir.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Fine.
sir.
Fine. Fine.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.